Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another lit week, man. I'm so excited for Christmas, and this is going to be a short week here on the channel. I'm taking tomorrow and Christmas Day off. We'll be back on Thursday. I hope you guys enjoy the holiday season, whatever you guys are celebrating. I hope you guys have a blast. I know I'm super excited, but we are starting this week off with a subscriber requested video. That is how to counter Android 21. So, I mean, it's interesting. We didn't see this deck top at Vegas, but we did see it top at Dallas. And it has a very distinct playstyle, very distinct archetype. It does very specific things, and we're gonna talk about how to counter those things in today's video. So if that deck is just the bane of your existence right now, you should watch this. With that being said, guys, before we get into it, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. Want to get involved in Dragon Ball Super community? Make sure to check out the Discord down below. And finally, guys, 3 ways you can help the channel out. Number 1, the Patreon down below, lots of competitive content for you. Number 2, we've got the YouTube channel memberships down below with the join button. And number 3, guys, if you want to buy any of the cards I talk about in this video today, make sure to use my link to TCG Player or Bearded Collectibles. With that being said, we'll hop right into this. So, Android 21, like I said, 3 things it does very specifically. Number 1, it plays tokens to the opponent's board. The leader, whether you're playing 18 or 21, they play relatively similar types of decks, but they do both give the opponent tokens, and they eat those tokens for various different effects to gain various different types of advantages. They also ramp usually with cards like Android 16 Energy Amplification. There is also a 4-drop that ramps them and pops a battle card, but this is the main ramp play they have. They also have Android 21 Violent Predator. That is their boss monster. When she comes down, she chooses all of the opponent's battle cards and energy that are not dual color. She negates their effects and ignores barrier and shuffles them all back into the deck. So believe it or not, this is like one of the very few cards in the game that actually answers Gogeta 7, you know, the barrier triple strike, that whole big shenanigan thing. And this is one of the only cards in the game that actually answers that card. So in this video, we're going to mainly talk about the ways that we're going to answer all these different strategies. Now, I'm going to rip the band-aid off immediately. In the case of Violent Predator, there aren't too many ways to deal with this card specifically because of that amazing, sick, awesome keyword there that you see, deflect. Unfortunately, because of that, there's not really many ways you can interact with this. You can't use counterplays like Bloodlust. You can't use counterplays like Frost Deadly Poison. When this chick hits the board, basically your whole board, at least whatever isn't dual color, is going away. So for the, threat of sounding obvious, I mean, if you play dual colors, you're not going to be too threatened by this card, but of course not every deck can do that, especially if you're playing Hachiyak or other monocolor decks, or even decks that just don't play dual colors, don't play Arrivals, things like that. But what I will say is, at least for the very typical cookie cutter Android 21 builds, I don't think they have too much finishing power. I mean, their 21 Violent Predator is essentially their boss monster. It has triple attack. So, if you're at 4 life and, the leader's not too threatening, if you have a decent sized hand, they really can't kill you efficiently. One of the ways they do, though, put on a lot of pressure is Android 21, A Brilliant Idea. So what this card does is, once per turn, you get to eat a token and you get to choose one of the following effects. You can either pop a battle card the opponent controls, or you can give your leader or a battle card plus 10,000 power and critical. So the main wombo combo of the deck is play this chick, the 3-drop, hope she sticks around, and then once you drop your Violent Predator, which is typically around turn 5, sometimes turn 6, turn 4 if they hit the absolute nuts, but typically on average I'm going to say turn 5 is when they drop Android 21 Violent Predator between all their ramping. And once they do that, they're hoping to boost it up with the Brilliant Idea, give it the plus 10k crit, so it's triple attack, 35k crit, and that's a lot more threatening than just 25k triple attack, no crit, no double strike, anything like that. So what are you going to do to Android 21 Brilliant Idea? Doesn't have any kind of barrier, doesn't have any kind of protection, so any form of removal, which no matter what color you're playing, there is a wide variety of removal options you have for this, whether they're more high cost, whether they're engine pieces, whether they're low cost, overwhelms. One of the most splashable overwhelms you could play to remove this card would be like something like Dimensional Banisher Fu or Mass Sand the Mysterious Warrior. That's about as generic as it gets, but when you get more specific, you're talking about an infinite number of different possibilities for each color. So anyways, the main point is, if you can deal with 21 Brilliant Idea, you're looking your odds of winning that matchup are looking up. Next up, we're talking about 21 Scheme. We're talking about their token generation. Now, before I talk about any of the cards you see on the screen, I want to talk about one very important thing. A lot of people don't know how to handle the tokens that the 21 player gives them. And what I mean by that is, people don't know whether they should be aggressive with them or not. And I will say it does vary a bit dependent on matchup. but there is one general rule of thumb you can follow if you aren't sure, you know, in your specific matchup how you should do it. So generally, this is how it goes. If you can force the 21 player to awaken on your turn, you know, the turn when you're attacking them with tons and tons of beaters, the tokens they give you, and any other beaters you can put onto the board. If you can force them to awaken on your turn, it's not bad to go in and be aggressive with those tokens, because what happens is, if let's just say you swing with the tokens, let's just say you leave them at 4 life and you don't threaten them past that, right? Because that does happen. You know, some inexperienced players will do that. Let's say you do that, right? This is what's going to happen. The 21 leaders specifically, even the 18 leader, they're going to get free pluses on that awakened turn. So let's take the 21 leader, for example. What they're going to do is, on their unawakened side, they're going to activate the ability to eat a token, draw a card. That's also going to proc on your next turn to untap a blue-green energy. Then they're going to awaken, draw 2. So at this point, they've drawn 3. Then they're going to activate their leader's awakened ability to eat another token and draw another card. And what that's going to do is, meaning they've drawn 4 already, and they're going to proc to untap another blue-green on your turn. So what that means is, in the span of that turn, you not putting pressure on them, they've activated the ability to untap 2 energy going into your next turn. So not only have they drawn an extra card that they shouldn't have because you didn't put enough pressure on them, but they're also untapping 2 energy going into your next turn. And that basically means like they automatically have like Vegeta the Cruel open for your next turn. If they choose to leave up more energy or untap more energy somehow, they could have like Ultra Instinct Goku the Unstoppable up on your next turn. So that's the thing. If you can force them to awaken on your turn, be as aggressive as you want with the tokens. If you don't think you can do that, be more passive with the tokens. 21 doesn't really care when they awaken, but if they can get that big tempo turn that I just mentioned, that's what they're aiming for. So a lot of times against 21, you dictate when they awaken. So make sure you keep that in mind. But with that being said, the cards on screen we're talking about in terms of token beating. Baby Vengeance Unleashed, really cool card for dealing with tokens. Definitely fact check me on this, but what it looks like is the cost is choosing a battle card and absorbing it. Then if your leader's a red machine mutant, do the rest of the effects. But if I'm correct and the cost is only choosing a battle card, that means that any red deck can play this, and then you can just suck up all the tokens. I know that for a fact is true. You can just suck up all the tokens immediately and fail to search. When I play Red Baby, I do that all the time. I suck up all the tokens, and then I just suck up another baby and go into a 4-drop for my deck. So that's a very valid strategy. Again, fact check me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. Next up, Super Baby 2 Malicious Majesty. Now, one of the reasons that Baby is such a tough matchup for Android 21 is because of this card in particular. What this card does is, when you attack, you activate battle, you pitch 3 cards, you take a life, you give everything on 21's board minus 20k and their leader minus 20k. So the leader is at -5 before any sensu beans or anything are factored in. And your opponent is giving you free 10k beaters, 2 of them every single turn. So with that, once you play this guy minus their leader by 20, those 10k beaters essentially become much bigger beaters because you neg the leader. They basically give you free pressure back on them. And blue doesn't have, neither does green. They don't have like a topo or a nimbus, something to easily deal with your aggro turn. So if you're playing red yellow, whether it's Baby, whether it's Beerus, anything in the red yellow color, if you're afraid of 21, you should be side decking Super Baby 2 Malicious Majesty. Next up, Tactical Victory Vegeta. Auto, when you play this card, choose a field card in your opponent's battle area and place it in the drop area. If you're playing green and you're afraid of 21, this is a very easy sideboard card to play. Of course, this is valid in the mirror match because you are playing blue-green typically. But any other green deck, mono green, it could be Clash Coup red-green, anything like that, this is a very valid card to use in that strategy. Next up, we're talking about Android 16 Energy Amplification. Of course, the ramp of the deck, and we know, I mean, if you guys have been playing this game for any amount of time, you know that ramp has a lot of hate. And just 2 cards to give you guys an example. If your deck can play Overwhelm, I would recommend Force Ejection Mass Sand, Overwhelm 3 for 1 energy. Activate main. If you have charge in this turn and your opponent has more energy than you still, you get to send one of their energy to the warp. So this is very specifically good against ramp decks. Dende knew the job's a little bit different in that you pay 2 energy, place it in your drop area from your battle area. If your opponent has placed a card in the energy using a skill during this game, anytime in the game period, choose one of your opponent's energy and place it in the owner's drop area. Now, I think if your deck can afford to play Overwhelm, which not all decks can, but if your deck can afford to play Overwhelm, I think Force Ejection is the better pick for a few reasons. One of which, it's a 15k pressure. Another one, it takes much less energy and setup than Dende. Typically, Dende is going to cost you 3 energy, 1 to play it, and then 2 to use the effect. And 3, I really like how Force Ejection, you can manipulate your energy, or you can do it on turn 4, to the sense that you can use 2 of these in 1 turn, because The effective force ejection only remembers what the energy total was at the charge phase. So if you play 2 force ejections in the same turn, you know, either hard casting one and overwhelming the other one, or any combination of ways you want to do that, you can use both force ejections effects in the same turn, even if you use the first one and your opponent's energy is equal to yours. I know it's a little bit complicated and confusing. I hope that makes sense, but basically know that if you meet the conditions for force ejection on the first go, you can use as many as possible, as many as you can summon in that one turn. You can use all their effects. So basically, the last thing I want to finish up, guys, if the bane of your existence is 21, you absolutely hate this deck and you just want to see it burn in the ground, play baby, guys. Whether it's yellow baby, whether it's red baby, this is such a tough matchup for 21. I talked about it a little bit with like Melissa's Majesty. That's one reason they can't deal with the -20 very well. It's a lot of pressure by turn 2. Like I mentioned before, if you force them to awaken with their own tokens and you're dropping a turn 2 Apocalypse Grudge grade 8 baby on them, they are in a really tough spot. A lot of those times, if they don't have the negates, they'll be at 2 life on like turn 2. So you definitely, if you hate 21, this is the deck for you to play. But guys, in general, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you guys enjoy your holiday season. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in the next video.